Hello and welcome back to London Cycle Routes. Today I'll be showing you how to cycle from Camberwell in South London to King's Cross in North Central London. This ride takes about 45 minutes and you can do the whole thing on quiet streets and protected cycle lanes. By public transport, the same journey also takes between 40 and 45 minutes, so cycling is a very competitive way to make this trip. If you find this video useful or you just enjoy watching it, then please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as I try to post new videos just like it every week. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to everybody who supports the channel on Patreon. If you'd like to contribute too, then you can find a link in the description below the video. Alright, let's get going. So we're starting on Camberwell Church Street and we're going to turn around and we're going to head up Camberwell Green. This bit of grass has actually been Camberwell's village green since time immemorial. The first written reference to it is in 1279 in connection with the holding of Camberwell Fair, which was held there as a sort of a market when this was a rural village. Over the coming centuries, Camberwell Fair developed into more of a circus type deal, and it actually apparently became quite boisterous and caused a lot of moral outrage in the Victorian era. The green was actually protected from development in the late 19th century though, after the local government, the Camberwell Vestry, purchased it to prevent it from development, which was actually a fate of many other village greens in the area. If you've ever been to Stockwell Green, you'll know that that's actually just a load of houses, but you can still see the outline of where it used to be a village green on a map. Not so with Camberwell Green, it's remained a green. We're now heading north out of Camberwell, and we're doing that on a series of quiet streets, which are all part of the Brunswick Park low traffic neighbourhood. There are a series of strategic road closures in this area which prevent cars from using it as a through route, which keeps the streets nice and quiet and creates a really pleasant cycling and walking environment for people to get around using active travel. My favourite fact about this low traffic scheme is actually that, it was put in by Southerk Council, but it was actually done with the support of the local NHS Trust charity, Guy's and St Thomas's, which saw fit to fund it as a public health intervention in an area which has quite a lot of deprived communities living in it. At the top of Brunswick Park, we pass through Addington Square, which doesn't really feel like a square anymore. That's because the street layout was changed in the 1970s when Burgess Park was created, which is the part that we're cycling through now. The paths in the park are shared with pedestrians, so do just make sure that you're courteous as you cycle down here and don't give anyone a fright. But the paths are nice and wide, and I should say as well that the park is open 24 hours a day, so you can use this route all the time. As you can see, the paths that we're using here do have street lighting on them, so you wouldn't have a problem seeing where you're going. I don't think that's the case for the whole park, but we're only in here briefly as we're going south to north on this route. As you exit the path, you get this nice protected cycle lane which helps you get down Albany Road briefly, and then you wait for the light and it helps you cross the street and get onto Portland Street. When you're doing this route in the opposite direction, you can see the protected cycle lane on the other side of the road which helps you approach that junction, but in this direction we're cycling on the main carriageway. Portland Street does have some through routes for cars on it, but in my experience it tends to be pretty quiet, and it's also quite a popular cycle route. As you can see, there's people sitting there with cargo bikes or also just cycling down the road. Particularly at rush hour, this is a really busy cycle corridor for people to get from this part of Southwark into central London, so you should expect to see plenty of people riding down here with you. And as you can see, there aren't too many in the way of cars either. Southwark Council actually has plans to reduce the traffic on this street further with extra modal filters, but they are stuck in traffic modelling at the moment as they're trying to work out the scheme and negotiate it with TfL. We're just crossing East Street here, which has a market on it most days. If you have a minute, do check out the market. It's really cool, and if you live in this part of London, you'll probably know about it. but if you live further afield you might not. I don't think it's anywhere near as well known as some of its sister markets. From a cycling perspective, I always appreciate that the market leaves a gap on Brandon Street where it crosses there so that you can cycle through it. That's not always the case with road closures for markets, and it's nice to see that being considered. Obviously, the flip side of that is that when you do cycle across East Street, do just make sure that you watch out for people who might be walking in your path. There's been a relatively recent change to the street layout around here. If you look at the end of Browning Street just here, it's been turned into a little cycle path, which I rather like. There's also this set of cycle traffic lights to help you get across Walworth Road into the low traffic neighbourhood here, and you can see plenty of people are using the quiet streets for walking and wheeling, not just cycling. I should apologise, by the way, for not posting a video last week without any explanation. I actually ended up with COVID, which was a little bit of a pain, so if my voice still sounds a little bit on the husky side, that is the reason. Keep your eyes peeled on the left here, by the way, for a particularly beautiful cafe with lots of greenery around it. It was slightly obscured by a blue car there, but I think you probably get the idea. It's called the Electric Elephant. I've never actually been there myself, but it looks like a nice looking place. At the end of the street, we're going to cut through the Canterbury Place estate. This is actually one of my favourite little estate cut-throughs in the whole of London because it connects up so many different routes. This time we're just going to go straight through and dodge around the chicanes and then use the dropped curb and the double yellow line, which lets us get down there onto Hampton Street. I think that drop curb has actually been added since I first started cycling this way, and it's certainly made things a lot easier and means that you don't have to dismount as much. Dismounting is more than just annoying. It's obviously annoying for most people, but some people actually can't dismount, maybe if they're riding an adapted cycle. And for an even wider group of people, it's difficult, painful, or uncomfortable. Now, I don't normally think of myself in that category, but on this ride it does actually include me because I have my son on my back while I'm filming this video. He's been very quiet and good, and you probably haven't heard from him yet, although that may change later in the video and I will point that out. But yeah, dismounting from your bike with a occupied child seat on it is actually more of a challenge than you might expect, so not having to dismount there really does help. Now, if you want to do this route yourself and you need a little bit of extra help following it, then you can always download the free digital map of the route, which I link in the description below the video. It's on a standard GPX format and it should work in whatever app or device you choose to use. There's also a composite map separately linked in the description of all the different London cycle routes videos on this channel. This is a great way to browse the different videos and see which ones are relevant to your area or areas that you might want to explore or maybe don't know as well yourself. This was put together by a chap called Isaac. Thanks so much for doing that, Isaac. Really fantastic work. And Isaac has also, as we're approaching the end of the year, done me a statistical compilation of the different London cycle routes videos based off the data in that map, in the style of Spotify Wrapped. So the top line of London Cycle Routes Wrapped 2024 is: I've done 44 new safe and scenic routes covering 306 kilometres of London's streets. The longest route was actually Waterloo to Woolwich at 16.3 kilometres. Personally, I actually found that surprising because I thought that Charlton to King's Cross was going to be the longest route, but it was actually pipped to the post by less than a kilometre. I visited 61 different places with the channel in 2024, 12 of which were new to the channel, and the top spots were Waterloo and Finsbury Park, which got 3 visits each. I am actually really pleased with that stat because one thing that I'm always worried about in this channel is doing the same places too much. So if I've only done the highest visited places 3 times this year, and there were actually 2 of them, then I think I've done a reasonably good job of spreading out the routes and not being too monotonous. On a similar vein, out of the 32 London boroughs, this year I managed to visit all but 10, which I'm pretty pleased with. There's a lot of boroughs and a lot of them don't have very much cycling infrastructure at all, so I think we got around pretty well. My favourite borough to visit was Lambeth, and I also passed through Southwark a lot. After that it was Westminster, Greenwich and Camden. As for the outer London boroughs, Waltham Forest led the way, as you might expect. It is very good. He's also put together some stats on which low traffic neighbourhoods I use the most. Apparently I used Camden Square and Great Southwark Street LTNs 3 times each this year. Separately, apparently this year's record for connecting up different low traffic neighbourhoods and chaining them together into a route goes to a string of LTNs in Waltham Forest and Newham. That route went through West Ham Park, Newham Atherton, Waltham Forest Newham, South Leytonstone and East Leytonstone. I think we can beat that record next year, especially now that I know I'm being measured. Apparently the average distance of a route this year was 7.1 kilometres, while the average duration was 18 minutes 19 seconds. So yeah, thanks so much Isaac, really fantastic stuff and Happy New Year. By the way, another festive treat he's cooked up. You may be familiar with the game Geoguessr. It throws out a random Google Street View point at you and you have to guess where it is. Well, he's actually created one for London's cycle network. Viewers of his channel would probably be pretty well placed to guess the points on it. I'll link it below, have fun, and why not post your score in the comments below to see who's been paying attention to the channel this year. Talking of paying attention, we are currently on Cycleway 6, heading north up Faringdon Street. That's the Holborn Viaduct ahead of us running over the road. When I shot this in the summer, there was building works on the other side of the street. That's all finished now, so when you do this route, you should be able to do it in both directions again. It was closed on the other side when I came through here, but it won't be a problem for you. That work is actually related to the redevelopment of Smithfield Market, which is off to our right or our east. And when that's all finished, it should reopen a great route from Cycleway 6 through to the city, especially when the City of London puts in its planned low traffic neighbourhood in the Barbican and Bunhill area, which is currently out for consultation and will hopefully put a filter on Beach Street, which is a crucial east-west route, which currently is a little bit too busy to use. When I first started this channel during the pandemic, Beach Street was actually kind of filtered. It banned all except zero emission vehicles. That was only a trial scheme though, and they actually didn't extend it. Instead, they are developing an area-wide proposal, which should be even better, but they are taking their time at doing it. So that's why I haven't had so many routes running from Cycleway 6 through to the city, as the only way you can currently really do it safely is Cycleway 3 further to the south, which is fine for some routes as we've shown on this channel, but for others it's a little bit too much of a detour really, so I've been saving it for when Smithfield reopens and the new LTN goes in and hopefully filters Beach Street. There isn't currently a timescale on the implementation of that new LTN. I hope it will be coming in next year, but I wouldn't be surprised if it took a bit longer. But it will open up lots of north-south and east-west routes to the east of Cycleway 6 and through the northern bit of the City of London. So when that's done, I think that'll be a crucial part of the London's cycle network jigsaw that will be completed. Make sure you're subscribed on the channel so when I do get around to doing videos on that and all the other infrastructure due later this year, you will catch it. These traffic lights here are temporary, by the way, and when you come down here, they should be gone. Talking of other infrastructure opening over the next year, there should actually be loads in 2025, and I'm not going to try and list it here. I'm actually in the process of putting together a special video to be released between Christmas and New Year that will specifically look at what we can expect in terms of new cycle infrastructure in London in 2025. As I say, there is rather a lot. That video will probably be a different format to normal. I don't think it will be the kind of route style video that I normally do. I played around a bit with that before, like the Q&A I did when we hit 10,000 subscribers. This one might be even more different, I don't know. Haven't really done that sort of video before on this channel. Do let me know if that's the kind of thing you're interested in, because it's proving to be a lot of work, and if there's not really the demand for it, maybe I won't bother. But if it does sound interesting, do make sure you hit the subscribe button below so you see it when I publish it. Because as I say, there is rather a lot of stuff coming up next year. And if that sort of video sounds boring to you and you'd rather just see traditional routes, never fear. There'll be a normal video coming up next Sunday as well. And of course, over the course of next year, I'll be showing off all that new infrastructure in the normal way by figuring out what routes it enables and making videos of them, as I do on this channel and will be doing for the foreseeable future. Now, my 2-year-old son had been very, very good on the back of my bike all throughout this morning and afternoon of filming various different routes in the sun. Unfortunately, he did start to demand both mummy and ice cream just as we came through Cromer Street here on the left. So I was originally going to make this video a bit longer. I think I was going to head to North London, but I decided to cut it off at King's Cross. Don't worry, we've still got a few minutes to go, but the reason I'm going slowly here is I'm thinking, where can I go and quickly get an ice cream for a 2-year-old? Depending on how good your hearing is and how bad my editing is, you might be able to hear him in the background, and that also explains why this video ends in a slightly different part of King's Cross to normal and right in front of an ice cream van. If you want to know where to get ice cream in King's Cross, do keep watching, as I am going to head straight for a place where you can usually procure it. I do really like riding with my son on my back for these videos. I think it's a great test of sort of putting my money where my mouth is as to whether a route is actually quiet, whether it actually feels safe, because obviously I'm comfortable riding it with a 2-year-old. It's also really useful, especially when I have both childcare and filming responsibilities, that I can combine those things and do them. I can't take him on every filming trip, as often when I go filming I have to use a train or something to get to some sort of far-flung place, and the idea of having him on the back of a bike on a train, or as I try and carry it up a station overbridge, is really not appealing. So I do still sometimes have to leave him at home, but increasingly I find that taking him out with me is a great way to just make sure that those routes are really as pleasant as I say they are. It's also a lovely way just to spend more time with him, and he loves being on the back of the bike generally, and he just likes to have a sing when he's back there. These cycle lanes on Goodsway are already pretty good, as you can see, nice and wide, pretty protected. Camden Council does actually have plans to improve them further. I can't complain, but they're already pretty good, and they take you right to the front of Granary Square, where you will find, as you cross the canal bridge, a semi-permanently located ice cream van just here. It's the blue thing right in front of us. So that's where we're going to stop today, and I'm going to purchase an emergency ice cream. But anyway, thank you so much to everybody for watching that video, and thank you especially to the channel's supporters on Patreon who help keep it going. If anybody is filled with Christmas cheer and is also feeling generous and would like to contribute too, you can find a link in the description below the video. Now that I have revealed that I'm working on a 2025 cycling developments video, I guess I have to actually make it. So yeah, you can expect that between Christmas and the New Year, barring some sort of catastrophe. Hopefully I don't get COVID again. Do leave a like, as it does help other people on YouTube find the video, and if you're not already subscribed and you haven't listened to me telling you to subscribe a million times throughout that video, probably slightly too often, then do make sure you hit subscribe so that you're alerted to new videos as I post them. I will see you guys again later this week, and then again on Sunday. Merry Christmas to you all, and I hope you enjoyed that dose of summer sun to pick you up on basically the shortest day of the year. See you again next time.